Okay, 15 slides, 15 minutes, Lego. So there are 6 major biomes that I need you to know. What is a biome, though? It is a group of ecosystems with similar climates and organisms. So a couple weeks back, couple days back, who knows how long, we talked about how organisms, one thing, form populations. A whole bunch of, let's use prairie dog, a whole bunch of prairie dogs. Then we form communities. That's the prairie dogs plus the snakes plus the grass. Then we form an ecosystem. That's the prairie dogs plus the snakes plus the grass plus the hot temperature plus the very little rainfall plus the sand. So ecosystem is a little smaller than a biome. So we're going to make a biome as any ecosystem on Earth that is the same. So anywhere on Earth that we have prairie dogs, snakes, grass, hot temperatures, and very little rain, that forms a biome. So hint, it's a desert, or it's like a desert. It's a savanna. So that becomes a biome. Here are the 6 that you need to know. Deserts, rainforest, grassland, deciduous forest, boreal forest, and tundra. Some of these you already know. I hope you know what a desert is, rainforest. Hopefully you can infer what this is. Deciduous, I taught you that word before, so hopefully it's ringing a bell. The rest we'll get to. So it is mostly the climate or the average annual temperature and rain that determines a biome. So when we look at these 6 biomes, what makes them different are how much rain it gets and, on average, what is the temperature. That's really the biggest difference between one thing and the next. So climate is a limiting factor for species. So we didn't talk about limiting factors yet, but let's pretend we did. So limiting factors are factors that are going to limit a population. So we talked about that polar bear. We can't take the polar bear out of Antarctica and put it up here where we live. No good. It's going to die. It has too much blubber. It's not adapted for Virginia. That is a limiting factor. So 2 other limiting factors are going to be rain and temperature. Right here. Temperature, rain. So let's start where it's nice and hot. Deserts. Very little rain falls each year. Super hot days and super cold nights. You can actually freeze to death in a desert at nighttime. It gets so cold. So what makes a desert is not that it's super hot. It's actually how little rain it gets. So hint, hint, if I ask you the question, what makes a desert unique? It's that it gets almost no rain. It's also hot. Okay, that is true, but it's not what makes it completely unique. Plants and animals must be adapted to this little water and extreme temperature shifts. So they have to be able to survive in the hot days, and they have to be able to survive in the very cold nights. So a lot of animals will kind of bury themselves in the sand because the sand generally stays pretty warm. So here's a desert. Look at it. Sand. No trees or grass or animals, really. Oh, look. More sand. Rainforest. So this is going to be the opposite. Lots of rain, hence the name, rainforest. So this very little sunlight reaches the ground. So this makes for very tall trees. Think of competition. I taught you about this a while back, and I taught you that even plants compete. The tallest trees are going to receive the most sunlight. Think of it this way. When we have rain here in Virginia, and someone's outside with an umbrella, the tallest person is going to have the tallest umbrella, and everyone's going to go hide underneath there. It's a competition. Okay, so same thing here. The tallest trees are going to get the most sunlight. So that leaves tiny plants actually at a disadvantage. There are 2 types of rainforest that you need to know about. Temperate and tropical. So temperate is a cold rainforest, and tropical is a warm rainforest. So most likely, when you think of a rainforest, you think of a tropical rainforest. Lots of trees, maybe some waterfalls, pretty birds. There are millions of species of insects alone. Rainforests have a huge biodiversity, which means a lot of different forms of life. So it has all different types of birds and bugs and other animals. So here is actually a temperate rainforest. If you're a fan of the Twilight Saga, right here it is. This is where Edward Cullen and family live. Lots of pine trees. Here's a tropical rainforest. Big plants, pretty water, lots of sunlight. So the difference is temperate has needles, tropical has big flat leaves. That's one of the big differences. Deciduous rainforest, this is where you live. Congratulations. Warm days, cool nights. That's exactly us, especially during summer. You can be outside riding dirt bikes, four-wheelers, shooting guns, whatever you kids do down here. And then at nighttime, you can be outside for a bonfire, but you might need a hoodie on or just a light sweatpant, okay? It's nice still, and that fire is going to keep you warm, but having that hoodie on just makes it a little bit easier. What makes a deciduous forest unique is that trees lose their leaves each winter and regrow them in spring. Remember, we learned this. They can't decide if they want to keep their leaves or not. Deciduous trees are angiosperms. We learned about this way back in the day. So look up on the wall. You still can classify it. It's still there. So they can't decide if they should keep their leaves or not. There's not enough rain for super big trees. Our trees might be tall, but they are certainly not the tallest. Okay? We have like pretty short trees actually. So many animals migrate or hibernate in this area. Migrate means to move in or out of an area. Geese migrate. They go down where it's nice and warm for the winter, just like the old people. Hibernate means to go to sleep for winter. Squirrels, bears, they both hibernate because it's just too cold in the winter to survive. So they dig a den or they bury in a tree somewhere. They go to sleep. They get all fat. It's a glorious life. I think I could be into that. So here is your backyard. Look how pretty it is. You can see there are some needle trees. Here's some needles. Here's some needles. Here's some needles. So we definitely have conifers, but most of our trees are deciduous. And you can see this picture was taken in fall because all of the trees are deciding, I'm not really going to keep my leaves this year. You can see different colors. You have reds and oranges and bright yellows. Some are still green popping in here. Okay, so they're going to lose their leaves eventually, most likely. Boreal forest. These are only in the northern hemisphere. So that is from the equator up. So from the equator all the way up to Santa's house. So these are very cool or cold temperatures. Many conifers, which are gymnosperms. So they have those needle trees, needle leaves. The Russian name is the taiga. Okay, so you might hear me go back and forth calling it a taiga or a boreal forest, especially in videos or something like that. You're going to hear them go back and forth pretty easily. This has snow up to your head. Okay, it can have between 3 and 6 feet of snow, depending on how far up north you are. That's a ton. And that's in one sitting. Like one storm might put out 6 feet of snow. And then the next one, another 6 feet of snow. Okay, so there's definitely a ton of snow up here. Oh, sorry. Okay. This also kind of looks like where Edward Cullen lives, if you're into Twilight. So very similar. Really what makes a difference is this is even further north than that temperate rainforest. Okay, so yeah, let's go with Edward lives here part-time, and they're the other. Because you know how Twilight is. They have to move around all the time because they are perpetually 18 years old. So they have to move around so they don't blow their identity. You know how it is. Moving on. Grasslands. So you can infer there's going to be a lot of grass. So temperatures here are actually super comfortable. Like, really, they're not hot. They're not cold. Cool, nice mornings and afternoons. Very tall grasses, but not many trees. You're actually going to see very few trees here, but a whole lot of grass. It has a fair amount of rain. Okay, so because of it only having a fair amount or an average amount, that's why big trees cannot grow. There's not enough water to support a tree, but there is plenty to support grass. There's also this problem. Fires and droughts are super common. So whenever a fire happens, it burns all of the plants down. The grass, the trees, the shrubs, the bushes, all of it. And we're going to learn in a couple weeks that grass grows back first. So that's why grasslands have a lot of grass, is because every time there's a fire, the bushes, the trees, and the shrubs get burnt down, and they take a longer time to grow back. But grass grows back almost instantly. So fires will burn down everything, but grass will come back very quick. Just kind of preview these words. This often causes secondary succession to start. I know you don't know what that means yet because I didn't teach it to you. So that's okay. Let's leave it at that. So this is home to some of the largest animals on Earth. A lot of them are going to be herbivores because it is a grassland. Elephants, rhinos, bison, of course. Okay, so here's a nice picture. You can see there are some trees, but they are few and far between. So you have a big herbivore right here. You have an elephant. You have a big herbivore back here. You have a giraffe. And most likely you have some other big herbivores. Bison, buffalo, other ones that I can't think of right now because it's almost my bedtime. Yes, there will be some predators. Okay, there will be some lions. But there's not going to be many because we've learned that it takes a lot of energy to support a lion. And here, it's just kind of hard to come by. Tundra. I think we're getting close to being done. This might be our last one. It is extremely cold and extremely dry. So the tundra is actually the cold desert. There's no more precipitation here than in a desert. The desert gets like, I think it's 4 inches of rain a year. We normally get that in a day. Okay? They get all of that in a year. So tundra, same thing. Excuse me. Very cold and very dry. So the ground is frozen year-round. Hold on, pause, unpause. So I don't know if this is highlighted in your notes. If not, why don't you go ahead and highlight it or underline it right now. Or circle it, box it, put a star near it. That's fine. So the ground is frozen all year round. That's called permafrost. This word totally makes sense. Perma is like permanently, and frost is like frost. It's permanently frosted. The ground literally is frozen. Because of this, no big plants can grow. No trees, no big bushes, nothing like that. So we have mosses, grasses, and some really tiny short trees. Remember, mosses are non-vascular, so they actually don't need to go into the ground at all. They just grow right on top. Grass only goes down the tiniest little bit. So it can only go down a little bit because the ground is permafrosted. It's permanently frozen. So caribou, foxes, and wolves are big top predators here. And they're going to just kind of survive with lots of fur and lots of blubber and a lot of snuggling, I would assume, because I know when I'm cold, I snuggle my dog. So they all have thick fur, lots of blubber. Here is a big caribou. Look at that guy. You can see back here on this big old mountain, there's snow all over. And you can see down here on the ground, there's no trees. There's not even big, like, bushes. The biggest thing is probably that guy right there, or maybe this guy right here. Look how tall that is. Look how tall it is. So very little can actually grow here because the ground is permanently frosted. Uh-oh. That's it. Look at that. I'm a minute early. I'm just going to sit here and make you listen to me. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just kidding. So if you need any help, same as always, please see an adult in the classroom. Any of us will be able to help you. Look back on Google Classroom or on the front whiteboard to figure out where you need to go next. And I hope that was great.